Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing 2023 Derek Lunsford and 2024 New York pro Nick Walker. Many believe that Nick could have won the 2023 Olympia if he hadn't suffered a torn hamstring, so this video should give some insight into what a battle between these two would have looked like. Now before the video does start, a like and sub would be much appreciated as it helps out the channel tremendously. With that all being said though, let's get into this video. Alright, the first pose, the front double, shows us that these two are very different when it comes to shape, structure, and overall flow. Derek has such pleasing lines and a great silhouette, but doesn't have uniform conditioning. Some areas like his quads, midsection, and things like that appear twice as detailed as areas like his arms and chest, which is a major flaw. Nick has better conditioning as a whole, presenting dry separation in the midsection, arms, and quads, and he clearly has the best total arm package. Both have a similar weakness of lacking quad sweep, which throws off their proportions. I definitely have Nick winning as he has the better overall muscularity and condition. However, Derek's shape is tremendous. I just can't get over how bad his biceps are, which ruins what could be a top tier pose. The front lat spread isn't the best pose for either of them, however, on an objective basis, Derek wipes the floor with Nick. While it must be said that Nick has drastically improved his execution of the pose, that wide midsection is on full display and isn't nearly as cinched or as controlled as Derek's. Nick may have a great full chest, tremendous arms, and nicely cut quads. However, his wide blocky waist detracts from other positive attributes. Derek isn't a standout competitor in this pose by any means. However, it is undeniable that he has better proportions, similar conditioning, and solid size. I also prefer his capped and rounded off delts, and his lats don't look all too bad either when looking up close. Going into the side chest, we see that it is surprisingly close. Now, people tend to criticize Derek for having a weak side chest pose. However, I'd argue that he looks rather decent. Sure, he doesn't have the same arm separation, chest striations, or overall density of Nick. However, he does showcase immense detail and size in the side leg, and his upper body isn't that bad. It's important to note that 2023's lighting was extremely poor, causing details like arm separation to appear less noticeable. That being said, I feel like Nick's upper body hardness and density combined with his great side leg are enough to win. Derek's chest appears shallow and unconditioned next to Nick's, and the same can be said about his arm. While Nick doesn't demolish Derek, it would definitely be a win for him in my opinion. The back poses are where the comparisons really do begin to get interesting, as these two are really known for their rear doubles. Here though, I think that Derek absolutely kills Nick. The back disparity when it comes to thickness, detail, and three-dimensionality are on full display as Derek has Nick beat upstairs everywhere but in the arms. Nick does have amazing calves and hamstrings which do destroy those of Derek's. However, Derek has superior glutes which doesn't make the lower body a dominant win for Nick. Although Nick may have a great rear double against most of the competition, Derek's rear double is quickly becoming one of the best of all time. There's just so much detail, density, and width, and he doesn't lack anything aside from maybe some peaky biceps or more hamstring separation. The rear lat spread is a similar story to the last pose, as Nick essentially wins the legs while Derek wins the back. Seeing Nick's hamstring at the New York Pro was really something else, as whether it be due to physical improvements or lighting, they looked stellar. Even considering that he had a tear, they looked just amazing, maybe at their all-time best. That being said, Derek utterly kills Nick in the back again, showing twice as much density and dryness, and even a bit more width upstairs in the upper lats. This was never a great pose for Nick, and while he has brought it up a considerable amount, Derek is just the better bodybuilder in this pose. He destroys Nick so much more than the amount that Nick beats him in the lower body, leading to a rather decisive win for Derek. Moving into the side tricep, we see that neither look aesthetic but possess some ridiculous size. Surprisingly, Nick is the one who has the better midsection, as he has much more control over his lower abdominal area and his obliques look tight and defined. Derek, while not as good in the waist, has a great side leg, a shockingly good arm, and a rather thick chest. Nick does slightly edge out a victory in all of those areas though, especially in the tricep and side leg in my opinion. The tricep itself should speak for itself obviously, however, as for the side leg, Nick has a bit more intricate detail over Derek, although Derek does show more glute lines. Whether it be lighting or objective muscular superiority, Nick definitely wins by a decent margin. I just prefer his posing and lines, which are two things rarely said about Nick as a justification for a win. The ab and thigh, or more like the vacuum and thigh for Derek, is a very solid pose for these two. This used to be a pose which Nick willed his way through, using his ultra-defined abs and freak factor to hide his fridge-like waistline and lackluster quad sweep. Now though, I feel like his abs have split even more and his waist appears a bit wider and less controlled and tight. I am not really the biggest fan of Nick in this pose, while on the other hand, Derek looks phenomenal to say the least. Sure, you can say that he isn't hitting an ab and thigh due to hitting the vacuum. However, I'd argue that bodybuilding is about hiding your flaws and presenting your physique in the best light. With that notion, Derek does perfectly do that, I guess, presenting an amazing V-taper, solid quads, and great separation. And he also just has that crazy X frame. Although neither are the best ever in this pose, I probably would go for Derek over Nick for what I just said. If this were the 2023 Arnold Nick or even the 2022 Olympia, I'd say that Nick would win. However, in this pose with these two versions, I've just got to go with Derek, as Nick appears to have just gotten worse. The last pose, the most muscular, is an alright pose for Derek, but an amazing one for Nick. By alright, I mean that Derek is just decent. He has tons of muscle and looks big, however, he lacks the fine cuts that Nick has, and the cuts that he already has are further washed out by the lackluster lighting. Nick, on the other hand, looks great. He has the same muscularity of Derek, if not better in certain areas, but has so much detail and graininess. This pose is definitely one of those poses which just make you go wow for Nick, and in person, Nick really just shocks the crowd with the pose. While he may not be the prettiest, he gets the job done, and does so in a very dominant fashion. Alright guys, that's about it for the video. In summary, this one ended in a 4-4 tie, with poses like the front double really being the only close one in my opinion. Although this was a tie, I feel like Derek still had an edge in the entire comparison. Shots like the rear double and the rear lat spreads were really where he put a lot of distance between him and Nick, and there were other factors that do come into play with a comparison like this, not just solely who wins the pose. Anyways, let me know down below what you guys thought of the comparison, if you think Nick could have won the Olympia, or if you think he could win the Olympia in 2024. And with that all being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.